larger-than-life characters. Ned McElaney, born and raised on a Louisiana bayou, was an expert on camellias, on alligators, on the hundreds of varieties of bamboo that grow around the world, and on wild turkeys. He was an Arctic explorer. His skills as a hunter once helped save the lives of 200 icebound sailors. He was an ornithologist who personally banded more than 250,000 birds. He also had a day job selling the hot pepper condiment invented by his family, McElaney Tabasco sauce. Turns out there's real money in burning mouths, and McElaney used his for an amazing array of good works. For one thing, he got very attached to a fellow native of Louisiana's bayous, the snowy egret. When McElaney was young, hats bearing egret plumes were for ladies what Coach handbags are today. This fashion mania had the effect of nearly driving the snowy egret to extinction, and no one was doing anything about it. So the philanthropist swung into action. McElaney beat the bushes in wild parts of the island his family owned and managed to find 8 baby egrets in 2 nests. He raised these hatchlings in a protected area, paid for their care over a period of years, and by 1911 had built up a population of 100,000 egrets on his private refuge. He simultaneously recruited John Rockefeller, Olivia Sage, and other philanthropists to buy up and preserve swampy land in Louisiana that is important as winter habitat of migratory waterfowl, including egrets. And in this way, he rescued a magnificent creature that was on the verge of disappearing from the earth. Later in his life, McElaney took action to stave off a very different kind of extinction. He had been raised with Negro spirituals in his ears and loved them dearly. Around his 60th birthday, McElaney realized that these songs were dying out and at risk of being forgotten forever, so he again sprang into action with both his checkbook and his personal involvement. He used his contacts to find 2 elderly singers who still remembered many of the songs, which until then had existed only in oral tradition, and he hired a musicologist to sit with him as these ladies performed so the lyrics and melodies could be written out. The 2 men took care to preserve the music in scrupulous detail, exactly as it had been handed down among the generations of slaves. McElaney then published these songs as a book, which became a classic of the genre. All but a handful of the 125 spirituals he captured were unrecorded in any other place. He single-handedly saved these soulful artifacts of American history for future generations. McElaney's songs included one that Martin Luther King Jr. with his most famous line, "When we allow freedom to ring from every village and hamlet, we will speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last."